In the state of Florida, it is illegal to kill an animal, to kill a dog. Back 6 months ago, a dog was shot in the neck, and when the police arrived at this individual's house, they arrested this man on the spot. However, 6 months later, you have an African-American juvenile that's shot in the chest, and this supposed alleged suspect walks away.
Now, the shooting of Trayvon Martin last month has thrown Florida's so-called stand your ground law into the spotlight. Now, if you've heard about it but not sure, I'll tell you a bit more about it. It was passed in 2005 in the state of Florida, and since that time, 16 other states, they followed Florida's lead and enacted very similar laws, if not identical ones. In short, the law, which critics call the shoot first, ask questions later law, what it does is it allows a potential crime victim who is in fear of great bodily injury to use force, even deadly force, in public places. So it extends beyond, obviously, the house, but to basically anywhere else. It extends the so-called castle doctrine, the idea that a person has a right to defend his or her own home with force, to go basically wherever they have to, and it also removes the duty to retreat. The Florida law explicitly states that if you are attacked, you are not obligated to retreat and that you have the right to use force if you, quote, reasonably believe it's necessary to do so to prevent death or great bodily harm to yourself or another, or to prevent commission of a forcible felony. Now, I should tell you that since this law was passed, the number of justifiable homicides in Florida has skyrocketed. In fact, in the 5 years before the law went into effect, Florida experienced an average of 12 justifiable homicides a year. 6 years since, the number has just about tripled. Now, the shooting and the questions that it's raised here really come down to not just what the federal gun policy is, but what the gun policy is on a state-by-state level, and it's pretty piecemeal right now. Laws have become vastly more, as we all know, pro-gun over the last 30 years, despite some claims to the contrary that people are kicking down doors to take them away. In '81, the states that you see there on your picture in white, 19 of them, didn't allow anyone to carry a concealed gun. As for the other states, the darker in shading here, the more relaxed the laws, and that was '81. Fast forward here to 2011. You get the drift, right? Only one state, and that's the state of Illinois, bans all concealed carrying, and note how many more states are shaded even more darkly, meaning their gun laws are more relaxed. Now, not only that, but the trend continues, allowing more guns in more places, not just states. Think about this. College campuses. You can carry guns on campuses right now, legal in 9 states, including Delaware. No specific dates, banning guns on campuses in 21 other states, meaning anyone allowed to carry them can carry them into a classroom, and it's legal. And that group of states includes viewers watching us in Connecticut and Pennsylvania. How about guns in bars? Something I think people would have thought would have been insane, except going back to the old Wild West. Well, you can carry and pack heat in a bar as you're having a drink or drinks in 8 states in America. It's not forbidden for permit holders in another 21 states to do the same, including, surprisingly, every single state in our region. How about bringing a gun to church? Go for it. Legal in 5 states. Soon to be legal in 35 others, including, once again, every state in our region. And just this week, in fact, even today in Georgia, plan to allow licensed gun owners to carry their weapons inside, forget just bars and state buildings, but the state capitol passed out of committee, and it's expected to arrive on the floor of the House next week, where maybe in a year's time, instead of just voting, they'll also have weapons in their waistbands. Now, what I want to know, and Senator, I'll bring you into the conversation here, is, listen, we're not talking about Second Amendment rights. When we look at what happened in Florida, I have a basic question, and none of us is a cop or attorney. The kid was coming home. Nobody justifies what happens. That's not what we're talking about. But the guy shot him, didn't have a weapon, and the police didn't even hold him overnight for questioning, because basically the guy can say under that state law, forget that he called 911, they told him don't do anything, he still went over and he still shot him, took it into his own hands. He's not a cop, by the way, even if he was, it wasn't justified, but he's not even law enforcement. How is it in anyone's best interest that we can have a law in our books that says, in effect, go where you want with a gun as long as you got a legal license and do what you think is right? Because in effect, I don't think I'm unfairly translating it, that's what this guy did, and he wasn't even arrested.
I mean, a couple things. First, my heart absolutely goes out to Trayvon's family. I mean, this is a travesty beyond travesty, and I think anybody with any decency whatsoever, and certainly those with family, your heart is broken by the images. There was also another case in Florida that we saw, totally unrelated, not similar in any way, but we had the Casey Anthony case. We had a mother who was an animal. She's free. The justice system failed in that instance. I understand everything that you just laid out. I'm very pro Second Amendment. And no single case, one way or the other, is going to shift my position, because I believe that there are evil people that do evil things, and we need to hold them.
But I read you the law in Florida. Would you think that would be good for your constituents?
I'm a big supporter of castle doctrine. I think that this instance, we should take a look specifically about Florida expanding the castle doctrine, and take a look at all the other cases that have happened in Florida, and take a really close look at it. I think there are some good points there. But evidently, and I have faith in the Justice Department to do a thorough investigation. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, I can't imagine having a young nephew or having a family member to be shot and killed by some guy who's then let to go free when he's in his own neighborhood unarmed. It makes you sick. So I don't know what broke down, but it better damn well get fixed.
But for me, it wasn't just. But for me, guys, it wasn't just that an idiot did a criminal thing and there was a tragedy. It was, in the eyes of at least the Sanford Police Department, legal what he did.
What was he standing his ground for, according to the law? I mean, what was he standing his ground for?
Well, apparently the ground is wherever he wants to go.
But he also the law, or is this guy just an animal?
We really don't know if it was legal. That's what we've been told by the police department. And I am telling you, covering journalism for 25 years, there is a connection between this man and that police department. It just hasn't come out yet.
But Don, we're missing, for me, the point. Who knows what would have happened that night, whatever the laws were on the books. But I think we're asking for trouble. Not that you don't have a right to bear arms. God bless you, the Second Amendment. I'm not fighting that fight here tonight. I'm talking about why do you need to bring a gun onto the floor of the state capitol? When you go to Albany, why should you have a gun? Why should you have a gun if you're going in a bar drinking? Why should you have a gun in the state of Texas,
right? And the whole thing was that Governor Perry used to go into the state house in Texas
after he was finished jogging it with on his chest from coyotes, right? Yeah.
So I mean, it's clearly a Second Amendment debate, which we don't necessarily need to get into here tonight. But in this particular state, in Florida, in this instance, what boggles the mind, in addition to everything that we've said, is that regardless of the law, this guy is still free.
But it's not a Second Amendment case, because it's the extension of this right, and it's all based on the shooter's belief at the time. Hey, did you think you were threatened? Yeah, I did. Okay, you can go. That's what this law basically says, and that's where I think it gets dangerous.
I find that very hard to believe.
Senator, I'm curious, if that law came up for a vote in New York State.
Well, okay, the way that you just posed it, I believe, if that were indeed a fact, I would have a very hard time believing that. That would be akin to passing a bill that's criminally insane. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't do that. That means somebody could walk out in the street, I feel threatened, shoot. Makes no sense whatsoever. So I don't believe that that's the law. I believe.
I read it verbatim, though.
Well,
I mean, I wasn't.
Look,
but if that law came to the floor of the New York State Assembly, you'd have the NRA lobbying for it.
No, you would not. No, you would not. You know what?
The NRA
The NRA has fought in many instances, and I have worked and passed and lobbied for bills to take firearms out of the hands of those who are domestic violence abusers, people who are mentally ill, people who have criminal track records. I mean, just common sense legislation.
And you got no pressures when you wanted to put restrictions.
The NRA actually supports some
good.
of those bills.
I have a broader question.
And if there's a bad loophole in this, I think that it similarly would be corrected by all sides.
In protecting the right to bear arms, have we gone too far, not in that the right to own a gun, but where you can go with a gun? To me, we saw this, I mean, God knows, we had this conversation after Gabby Giffords and stuff, that a guy literally went afterwards with an assault weapon on his person in plain view, and it was legal. And he went to some rally in Arizona the following week.
It's like Wild West laws, and that seems to be the direction the NRA is pushing for. You can bring your gun anywhere you want. You can use it for any reason that you think is justified, and that seems to be the expansion that they're going for. The irony to me is that every Wild West movie I've ever seen, the drama starts because there's a big sign outside of town that says "No guns allowed." And that aspect of the Wild West, that doesn't seem to be getting picked up.
Watching too many westerns. All right.
I really do.